goes on media. This is Coming Out Stories. It's a podcast about one of the most important conversations of your life. I'm Emma Goswell. We're now going to hear a coming out story from Kerry.
I didn't come out and didn't actually realise I was gay till I was 34, I think, 34, 35. I've got to do this in terms of children, mid-30s.
Okay. By which time you were married to a man and had 2 children?
Yes. Well, I never quite got around to marrying him. I nearly did. It was almost marrying him that made me run. So, yeah, I've been with him for 10 years. Yes, had 2 children. And then a light bulb kind of literally went on.
What was that moment then? Was there anything that led up to it? Were you not expecting it?
I totally wasn't expecting it. It's like the world made sense in hindsight, but no, there wasn't a lead up to it. But when it did happen, a lot of things made sense. But I didn't feel like I'd been living a double life or anything. But in answer to your question, which I suppose is what happened, is the person who I ended up marrying, who I'm sadly no longer with, became single, and I started following her around, literally, and I didn't understand why. I just was really drawn to her and kept making sure I was where she was.
So it was one person that you fell in love with? That was what happened?
Yeah. And yeah, she always used to joke, "You're not gay, you've just fallen in love with me because I'm amazing." But I just am. I just know that I am.
But you don't even say that you're bisexual particularly, do you?
No.
Even though you had a long relationship with a man.
And I've been challenged on this a couple of times by one person in particular, a gay man. He's like, and he won't have it. He's like, "You are bisexual." And I'm like, well, I think that's kind of for me to say and not you. Yeah. I just am. It's just a feeling. And it was like, when I was first with a woman, it was like coming home. That's the best way I can put it. It just made sense.
So it didn't scare you, the fact that you'd only been with men before and you were in your 30s?
No, actually. No, it didn't. No, it didn't scare me. That's fine.
Was it like the best day of your life?
Yeah. Why didn't I work this out sooner?
Do you have any regret then of thinking, why didn't I work it out sooner?
I've thought about this quite a bit, and no, I don't think the word is regret. I think, if I'm truly honest, I probably would have liked to fuck a lot more women, because I would have done in my 20s and 30s, I suppose, let's be honest. But then there's also probably a lot of drama that I've managed to avoid. And also the relationship with the father of my children produced 2 amazing little girls, and I could never, ever regret that.
Oh, God, absolutely.
So,
yeah. So what's it like then joining the gay world sort of in your 30s, as it were?
There's a lot of references I don't understand and I don't relate to. So literally people go, "Oh yeah, the L word," and I'll be like, "No, never watched it." And I always get, people going, "What? Are you a real lesbian?" I didn't understand the term lesbian drama. I do now. Yeah, so there's quite a few just like cultural references that I didn't understand. I never lived the gay village life when it was in its heyday. But what was it like coming out? I feel like, and I get a bit emotional, it was so easy. And I think that's because so many others have paved the way before me. So I haven't had any crap at all. So did you tell your parents? Was there a parental moment? Yes, my parents aren't together. I told my dad. He broke into a massive smile and got a glass of whiskey. And he was happy? He was so happy, so happy. I think because he's just happy to see me happy.
Yeah, so that was your dad. Well, yes. What about your mum?
So for Mum, it was more difficult, not because of any homophobia. It was literally a physical distance. She lived in Australia, even though we're very close. She doesn't like me, she lives in Australia. No. So telling someone over the phone is different. It just is. And she struggled with it, and when we physically met up, it all made sense. She didn't struggle with it as in she was negative. She was just like, what? Like, surely is this just a phase? She only ever known me to be with men. But what she said, and it was so moving, she just said, it just is really hard knowing that you're closer to another woman than her. So when I fell in love with a woman, I think my mum was heartbroken, if that makes sense, because then I was closer to someone else who was a woman. We'd always bonded over probably crap relationships with men, to be fair. Anyway, and then she met my wife and fell in love with her as much as I did, and it was all good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard anyone vocalise that before.
Yeah, and it made sense when she said it. I was like, oh, now I get it, because she's a very accepting and open person.
Was it weird doing over the phone? Did you have to really sort of plan in your head what you were going to say? How did you do it?
I'm not sure I did plan. I just said, I think, gosh, this is going back now, something along the lines of, I've met someone and that someone is a woman. And I think the line went quiet for a bit. And that's all I can remember, to be honest.
That's quite hard because you can't see their facial expression.
Yeah, it's dead hard. And yeah,
I spoke to someone else who said that they were so worried about their mother's facial expression, even though they were face to face, she put a cushion in front of her face. So she couldn't, because she couldn't bear, if there was a look of disappointment in her mum's face, she couldn't bear to see it.
Oh, God, you're going to set me off.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I actually, I've spoken to people about this. It sounds a bit daft, but I almost feel guilty that I didn't have much of a struggle, because I know so many people did because of their parents, or because it was a few years ago. Well, some people still struggle now, of course they do. Less people, I would argue. Yes, I just feel I'm very fortunate.
Although your mother did say it was a phase, and that's quite interesting that she said that even though you're in your 30s. Like my mother said it, but you know, at least I was a teenager, and a lot of people say it because everyone thinks teenagers don't know their own mind. I think they just say it's teenagers. Yeah. But it's unusual to say it to a 30-something-year-old woman.
It was a knee-jerk reaction. I don't know. I'd have to have that conversation with her. I think it was just shock of knowing, you know, I'd always been with men and liked it. So.
And have you had to come out in work scenarios or to friends? How did those conversations go?
Oh, God. It was the funniest coming out ever, because I'm quite an attention seeker. So Laughing Cows, as you know, I host it monthly, so I'd got this...
Great female comedy night, by the way.
I didn't mean to do a plug, sorry, I really didn't.
Fair enough.
No, I didn't mean there's context to it. So I came out on stage to I'm Coming Out, and was just so... I really wanted people... Nobody cared. Nobody cared. They were just like, tell us some jokes. We're not really interested. I always remember telling another close friend who was like, Kerry, I worked it out years ago. Why is it taking you so... So it was all just like, I was like, but where's my moment? I want my moment. No one gave a shit.
You did. You had I'm Coming Out. You had a theme tune and a stage and an audience.
No one gave a shit. So I was gutted.
Well, they were like, was that your act? We want more.
Yeah. No one was. It was downplayed. People just were like, yeah, and are you happy? Right, great, let's move on.
Crack us some gags.
Yeah. So yeah, to friends were just like, also because I was in a fairly unhealthy relationship, they were just like, I'm glad you're in a good one. You know, you're happy. So yeah.
And now, because obviously I've just been to see your show, having to navigate the single world as I am.
Oh my God.
As a 40-something. As a 40-something woman, when, you know, back in the day when we were single, we didn't have to go and do apps and swiping left and right.
No, well, actually, you know, there's a woman stood nearby our vicinity who I have been on a date with who is lovely, and we were introduced through friends, though, weren't we? So we didn't have to navigate that. But I did try an online app, and I just found it horrific. And I know it works for lots of people, but I just found, the word like you've just said is navigating. It's having to sift through who's lying. Is that picture? Is this the person I'm talking to? Some of them being really needy. So the next day, why haven't you messaged me back? I'm like, because I don't know you. You know, it's just...
straight couples wanting threesomes.
Oh,
did you not have any of them?
Oh, sadly, no.
No, right, I've had a few of them.
Oh, I'm obviously not putting the right vibe out there.
So if you were to perhaps go back to your younger self, would you give any advice to yourself that would be different?
Oh.
In hindsight?
Oh, gosh. The only thing, I suppose, would to be more self-aware, because, like I said before, historically now things make sense, but they were literally like moments. I would always remember there was a beautiful girl in first year of uni, and whenever she walked in a room, I couldn't speak.
Ah.
But I used to laugh about it with a friend and go, isn't that funny? Didn't occur to me, and I kept going out with men, and I was that was and then there was a couple of times at a party where just chemistry, a particular woman, I'd just be like, oh my God, and I'd just brush it off. So yeah, just to be more tuned into yourself, I suppose.
And what about to younger people or anyone listening that might need a bit of advice, or in terms of how they should navigate that conversation with people?
I think it's a very, very individual journey. I couldn't advise anyone this is the way you should do it. I would say, it makes me sad to say this, but you still probably have to choose carefully who you come out to initially. So if you feel that there's someone that's going to be resistant, then initially come out to someone you feel safe with, I suppose. Gosh. I mean, I had, and I have to keep this confidential because this is, I won't say who it was, but someone who I know who I didn't know that person was gay, and we had a big WhatsApp conversation, and that person really didn't know how to tell their mum, and I knew their mum, and I knew it would be fine, and this person got in such a tiz about it. In the end, that person left a note, and everything's hunky-dory now, it's fine, but the build-up for that person, they were so anxious and so worried, and I knew it would be fine.
Well, that's one way of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a teenager in America that did it in a cake. She wrote on a cake, "Mum, I'm gay," and the icing of a cake.
I love it. I'm not sure there is a right or a wrong way, is there? It's just... But perhaps, I suppose the only advice I would give is, because we do this with anything we're a bit frightened of, we drag the build-up out, and that's not good for anyone. So just crack on.
Thank you so much to Kerry for some funny memories and some poignant memories there. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We'd also love to hear from you on Twitter. You can find us there at Come Out Stories. I'm Emma Goswell, and Coming Out Stories is a What Goes On media production. Coming up next time, you'll hear from Richard, a British Muslim who eventually found the courage to come out to his parents.
So I almost felt like I was a real disappointment, not only to my parents, but also in terms of that relationship I had with God, that I was almost kind of letting God down sort of thing, and that I wasn't right or I wasn't normal.